Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call this May meeting of the Quorum Court to order, and I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance. The prayer and the pledge is going to be handled by J.P. Joel Maxwell. J.P. Maxwell.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for the chance that we have to represent the citizens of Washington County. God, I pray that you guide our motives and our methods. God, I know that you say there are ways that seem appear right to us, but aren't. I ask you to help us to see your ways tonight and to use this responsibility wisely. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.P. Maxwell. Next thing we have is the roll call. Carly, would you please call the roll?
Daniel Balls. Harvey Bowman.
Here.
Rick Cochran.
Here.
Robert Dennis.
Here.
Lisa Ecke.
Here.
Ann Harbison.
Here.
Sharon Lloyd.
Here.
Tom Lundstrom.
Here.
Eva Madison.
Here.
Sue Madison.
Here.
Joe Maxwell.
Here.
Gary McHenry.
Here.
Joe Patterson.
Here.
Butch Pond.
Here.
Bill Ussery.
Here.
Quorum present. The next thing we have before us is the adoption of the agenda. And there are a few changes that I need to ask you to look at and approve. I would like to move the county judge report to after the 6.1 in your book. Josh Moore has been scheduled to speak during a report about the WWA RDA, and he has a later engagement that he needs to attend. So if I could ask you guys to consider making a change after that. And then J.P. Madison, Eva Madison, has a couple of things that she's going to need to add in my county judge reports. And those are my changes. Are there any other changes to be made to the agenda?
Do we have 20.1, .2, .3, and 4?
Those are the ones that J.P. Madison is going to be taking care of, yes. Well, let me see.
20.1 is Justice Madison, Judge. And 2, 3,
okay,
4.
and J.P. Cochran has got the 2, 3, and 4. I'm sorry, Rick. Okay, and there's no other changes for the minutes? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. We need to try to help Mr. Moore get out of here because he's got another commitment with his kids, and that's important. Okay, the next thing you have in front of you is the approval of the minutes. We had a couple of meetings last time that we tabled because people had not had the time to read the minutes from the Quorum Court meetings from January to April, January the 14th and the 21st, February the 18th, March the 17th and 29th, and April the 21st have all been distributed. And Karen assured me that you probably got them in time to look at all of them. Are there any corrections to be made? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Members, I have read the original sets in their draft and in their revised form and the new ones that came in this packet, and all I found were some minor typos and spelling errors, and I sent those to Carly this morning. So I would move approval of the minutes with those typos corrected.
Thank you, J.P. Madison. Have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. The next thing we have before us is a resolution it's going to be presented by J.P. Tom Lundstrom. J.P. Lundstrom.
I'd like for Jeannie Mack to bring Mr. Furr to the front, if she would, please. Of course, you're going to hear it. I would like to read this myself, Mr. Zaga, if it's all right.
That's, of course, J.P.
Mr. Furr, being a professional barber, has cut the hairs of the youth at the Juvenile Detention Center for 16 years. And he has told Jeannie Mack that it's a part of his ministry. I don't think he knows how much I appreciate that terminology. I'm always looking for people who love the Lord enough to do something for him for nothing, the way he did something for us for nothing. So I want you to know how much I truly appreciate the work you're doing over there personally. I'm going to read this resolution. A resolution expressing appreciation to David Furr for his service to Washington County Juvenile Detention Center. Whereas the Washington County Juvenile Detention Center is mandated by Arkansas Juvenile Detention Facility Standards to provide hair care services to juveniles housed And whereas David Furr, a licensed professional barber, has been providing this service to these juveniles for the past 16 years and has always refused payment for such. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, David Furr is hereby commended for his service to the Juvenile Detention Center. Jeannie, if you'll give him the plaque, please.
On behalf of JDC, the kids, and all the staff, and Judge Marilyn, and the Quorum Court, thank you so much, David. We really appreciate it.
I'd just like to say I appreciate the staff down there. They're always accommodating to me. And they're caring, professional, and they're doing a good job for Washington County down there.
Thank you.
We thank you very much for your time and your service, Mr. Furr. You're working with a real sweet lady here, and we appreciate her. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Tom.
Thank you.
You need to move to adopt it.
I'm sorry. I move to adopt the resolution as read.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? With no further comment, Carly, would you please call the roll?
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Joe Maxwell,
Yes.
Gary McHenry, Joe Patterson, Butch Pond, Bill Ussery, Daniel Balls, Harvey Bowman, Rick Cochran, Robert Dennis, Lisa Ecke, Ann Harbison, Sharon Lloyd, Tom Lundstrom,
Yes.
Eva Madison.
This resolution is adopted. Now, this is the next thing we're going to have. Mr. Moore, could we ask you to come give your report now for us?
Thank you, Judge and Court, for moving me up a little bit in this agenda a little bit. I've got 10-year-olds I need to go corral at a baseball game, and that's like herding cats. So I appreciate it. I'll give my report real quickly. I've got a few things on here and kind of go over some stuff. A lot of you are new since last time I think I've been here, and I may not know some of you, and some of you may not know me. So let me introduce myself. I'm Josh Moore. I am with Washington Water Authority. I'm the general manager there. I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of Arkansas for civil engineering as well, and have worked with rural water systems for a long time, since the beginning of my career straight out of college. So have been with Washington Water Authority for 13 and a half years now. So a lot of experiences out there that we've had, and a lot of good times, lots of good projects we've worked on stuff, and I'm going to go over a couple things on that today. So many of you may not know that Washington Water Authority was created in 1988 as a project of the Rural Development Authority. Mr. Butler was heavily involved in that at that point in time. Technically, the RDA of Washington County is the owner of the water system. They're the ones that incur the debt for the system. However, Washington Water Authority is the system. We are the operating entity of the system. So, we take care of the water system, maintenance, collections, billing, stuff like that, keep people in water and get people water, and work with the RDA on new projects, stuff like that. So some interesting facts about WWA you may not know is, and a lot of people don't know this, is how big that we are and how far vastly spread we are. We have approximately 750 miles of pipe in the ground. That's a lot of miles of pipe for water pipe in the ground. So there's a lot of systems in the state, but we are one of the largest rural water systems in the state of Arkansas. So we have a huge mileage of pipe in the ground. We also cover, we think, based on our service area and coverage, we cover about 350 square miles of geographic area. So Washington County, I think, is 900 and something square miles. We're a huge portion of that as far as water service goes. So currently we have 6,387 water customers as of the last billing last month. So we serve an estimated population of 15,000 plus in population served with water in the, I'm going to call it rural part of the county. A lot of it is rural. With the growth we've experienced in the past 10 to 15 years, some of those areas now becoming cities expanding out and annexing out, so we serve in some cities as well. Actually, most all the cities in the county we serve in, except for a few of the smaller ones. So, in the last 10 years, we've had a 30.69% growth in customer base, which is a pretty good number for growth over 10 years. It's averaged 2.73%. over a 10-year period, and that's a pretty good number for rural water systems. So when I started in November 2002, we had about 3,800 to 3,900 customers, and now we're at 6,387. So we've increased a pretty good number in the past 13 and a half years. We also currently we do things like plumbing inspections. We did around 1,100 plumbing inspections last year to make sure the plumbing meets our Arkansas State Plumbing Code. And that's one of the things that we do, and numerous things that we do is we operate ourselves on a daily basis based on the regulations and requirements of the Arkansas Department of Health. We have engineering regulations, we have plumbing regulations. We are regulated pretty heavily by them for water quality and things like that we do every day. So sometimes we make decisions, and sometimes we make tough decisions, and sometimes people aren't happy with our decisions, but we do it in the best interest of the water system to make sure that we provide a safe, potable water supply to all of our customers. So that's our main goal, is to be a safe, potable water supply for the end user, and that's what we need to do every day. So with as big areas we have right now, we do it with a relatively small staff. I have 8 field guys, 3 office staff ladies, and myself. So we have 12 people operating this system of 6,300 plus customers, and it's a big geographic area, so just so you kind of know. And we do have a few current big water users, and I'll give you a couple examples of those. One is we do serve water now via the Phase 1 Southeast project to the Devil's Den State Park. So Devil's Den State Park actually receives their water service from us now. They are their own public water system within it, but we do service it to them to get them a clean, safe, potable supply of water. We worked with the Arkansas State Parks Commission on that 6-8 years ago, probably to get that done. 2 of the other big things that are happening, or we have been servicing, is the Farmington Sports Complex, their new 6-field facility out there. We are the water provider for that. And then right now, the new Farmington High School is being built, for those of you in the Farmington area and know much about that. And the gymnasium and fine arts facility that has been built there is on our water service, and the new high school, which is currently under construction, will be on our water service. So those are some pretty big users right there, and we have to fulfill those needs of those customers as well. For 2016, our annual budget is $4.9 million, which is a pretty large sum for a water system, but we are a rather large water system. So with that, we have a current indebtedness of about $19.8 million. So we have a pretty good large amount of debt on the water system for the infrastructure that we have. The yearly loan payments are around $1.5 million of that. So if our annual budget is 4.9 expected in revenue, 1.5 of that goes strictly to debt service. The most recent project that we completed, and I looked at some research information on this today, was the Southeast Phase 2 project, which is, there's still pictures of it on the county website you see every day. Unfortunately, I'm still on there with the judge showing people getting water. So that was completed, in the final completion date on that was June 17th, 2014. That's when we finished that project up. The first person to receive water on that project, as some of you may know, was former County Sheriff Bud Dennis. He was the first customer we hooked up on that service that day, and that was October 1st, 2012. So he's actually been receiving water service for about 3.5 years now, which is longer than I thought when I looked it up. So that provided water to about 415 new water customers. It added 73.9 miles worth of pipe. So we have water mains going through there, and we added 73.9 miles. Of that, which is kind of an interesting fact, there's 2.35 miles of the, if there's a water main going by here, we tap on with a service line and run to the meter. There's 2.35 miles of 1-inch service line in that project. So that's kind of a lot of pipe just for service lines. A new 200,000-gallon elevated storage tank, and then the total project cost for that project was $8.992 million. So to get 415 people water, or customers water, it cost nearly $9 million. And then there was also a LMI portion to that project, was about $350,000 that was used to get low-income users water based on the grants that we received. Out of that project, the $8.99 million, $7.7 million was in grant funds. So we received a large sum of grant funds to put that water in for those people down that area. We only have like a $1.2 million loan, which is astronomical for that area. So it really helped us get those people water in that area of the southeast part of the county. So a couple things we did to help save money on the project. We did all the easement preparation, and we did all the easement acquisition with meetings out there with Jay Stallard, Wayne Blankenship, as many of you know, the judge, and several other people. I think, Ann, you were involved in some of that, and Butch, you may have been as well. So that was quite fun times, I think. I think Ann had an interesting story, too, about that once. But big contributors to the success of that project, again, Wayne Blankenship was your primary driver in that force right there. Of course, Judge Edwards, she was fully backing it and going with it. Tim Mays at Engineering Services was heavily involved as our project engineer. Jay Stallard with Northwest Arkansas Economic Development District. He was very helpful in the CDBG grant funds and also the LMI project part of it. Of course, Ann Harbison and Butch were involved down there. I remember seeing them at meetings. And then some big thanks to USDA Rural Development, Neil Hodges. He's our rep in Harrison. He did very well on that project. And also Scott Savoy with ANRC did a huge number, and that's where the grant funds came from for the CDBG money. And that was like $4 million, I think, coming from that one. So a couple of recent developments are, if y'all remember back December 27th, we had a huge rain happen just after Christmas this year. And our supplier, Benton Washington Regional Public Water Authority, had a water main washout in the county road on Dock Hall Road north of Prairie Grove. And that put our system at severe risk of running out of water. So we had to jump on that pretty quickly. We spent a couple of days working on that. Luckily, we had enough storage that we were able to keep everybody in water. And we also got some assistance from City of Fayetteville because we were able to turn on some interconnections between City of Fayetteville and us, and they helped provide us water to a couple areas to keep those areas in water. So we thank the City of Fayetteville for helping us in that instance there. And then we did have to issue a system-wide boil order as a precautionary measure, and that was all over the press and everything like that, so y'all probably saw some of that. It was precautionary. Nobody was ever out of water. There was simply a section of line about a mile long that was down for more than 4 hours. So that's why it's precautionary. We did chlorinate it and sample it and put it back in service. Everything is good at this point in time. So the big contributor to help us with that on that was the county judge, and I talked to George about it as well, I believe, and then also the county road department because they helped us. We had that 18-inch water main blow out in the Dock Hall Road where water was coming in on us pretty heavily. So the county road department did help us tremendously. They did get us some gravel out there, some shot rock to keep things in place so that we could get the repair fixed and keep people in water service. So we do appreciate that very much. We also have a current project that we're working on through our supplier, the 2-ton system, and I'm part of the board of that, so I say we're working on it. Really, it's their project. But we have a parallel water main that's coming down from east of Siloam Springs at the old Allen's Canning Company, which is now Del Monte Foods, to the tanks just north of Lincoln. We currently have an 18-inch water main that comes down with a booster pump station and feeds that area. And we can feed about 4,500 gallons a minute through there right now. That line feeds all of Washington Water Authority, City of Prairie Grove, City of Lincoln, and Westville, Oklahoma. So at 4,500 gallons a minute right now in the summertime, that becomes a bottleneck, and we can't get enough water at 4,500 gallons a minute. So we're going to put a parallel 24-inch water main and some bigger pump stations to increase that capacity. It's going to be about an $8.67 million project. We got bids in a few weeks ago. Bids were expected to come in about $12 million, and we got it in for about $8 million. So we're going to save some money there, so it's going to help our customers save some rates. So we will see a small rate increase. The board has not acted on that yet, but 2-ton has raised the rates a little bit per thousand to cover that project cost, and we'll have to pass that on to the customers, unfortunately. But construction is to start June 1st. We had a pre-construction conference 2 days ago at Avoca, so we're going to get that contractor going and try to get us some more water in the south end for Washington County residents of City of Lincoln area, Prairie Grove, and us. So that's pretty much what our current projects are for the past couple of years and what things have finished up.
Are you open for any questions? Are you willing to take questions?
It depends on what it's about.
Do I have anyone?
If I know any answers, that'd be good.
Any questions for Josh? Thank you very much. Good
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you coming tonight. Good luck with your boys.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Next thing on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Mr. Hill.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. All right, 7.1. We always start with general, of course, and expenditures were over revenues, which is not unusual for April. There's just not a whole lot of revenue coming in right now besides sales tax. For the current month, we did get $3.3 million in property taxes. So when I come back in May, that I hope the report will show a little better. Down to 2000 road, it stayed the same, almost exactly, beginning and ending. And jail improved a little bit revenue-wise, mostly thanks to $433,000 in prisoner reimbursements from state and federal. Turn it over to the next page, the bottom right corner. $23,936,000 is the cash we had in the bank at the end of April. 7.2. 1 cent sales tax was excellent month. After a dip last month, we came back strong. We would have to go back a decade to find a better April showing. And this is February numbers, and part of the reason we're up is because it was a leap year, and that added about 20,000 to the total, but still it's a great month, 15% increase. 7.3, the jail tax. Excellent also, is best April showing in the history of the tax, going back to 2002. Is also 15%, and we're just 4 months in, we're already 200,000 more than this same time last year. 7.4, the road, half-cent sales tax. It did well too, almost 120,000, which is 7.5% increase. Finally, employee insurance. It actually raised a little from $1,514,000, ended with $1,563,000, and that is all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Hale? Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Next thing we have is our comptroller's report.
Hello.
Hi. You're on.
All right. On 8.1 is the unappropriated reserves. If anybody has any questions.
Ashley, why don't you tell everybody what you're now doing?
Well, Cheryl is officially retired May 31st, and I'm going to slide into her position. So I'm extremely excited, and I look forward to working with every single one of you. So
thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on. The next page is a summary of revenues and expenditures report. If anybody has any questions. And then 8.3 is a summary statement of operations.
Is that all?
And that's all I have.
Any questions for Ashley? She really does know the answers, so if you guys want to ask her, please feel free to do so.
I will do the best I can.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Next thing we're starting on is your appropriation ordinance. Mr. Pond.
An ordinance changing a personnel position in the assessor's budget for 2016. Article 1, the assessor's budget is hereby amended to change the GPS tech position grade 14, slot 0105021, to a deputy 2 grade 11 position for 2016.
It's not very often well, this happens occasionally, but we're taking somebody down a notch or two, and so it's not going to cost us more money. Let's see. This is this on an appropriation ordinance. Do we have to do more than?
Just one reading.
Just one reading?
Yes.
I move to pass 9.1.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Russ, you have anything? Any comment? Okay.
Just trying to save the county some money.
Hey, we love you. Well, with no other comments, Carly, would you call the roll?
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison? Sharon Lloyd? Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
This ordinance is adopted. Thank you. Number 10. Rick.
Thank you, Judge. 10.1 is an ordinance that will bring in additional revenue and take money away from the work release budget to combine to a total of $16,069 for a vehicle. Attorney Zega, would you please read 10.1?
An ordinance recognizing an additional revenue of $4,069 in the general fund, reducing the general supplies line item in the sheriff work release budget by $12,000, and appropriating the total amount of $16,069 from the general fund to the vehicle line item in the sheriff work release budget for 2016. Article 1, there is hereby recognized additional revenue of $4,069 in the insurance proceeds revenue line item of the general fund for 2016. Article 2, the general supplies line item of the sheriff work release budget is hereby reduced by $12,000 for 2016. Article 3, there is hereby appropriated the amount of $16,069 from the general fund to the vehicles line item in the sheriff work release budget for 2016.
Thank you. I move to pass 10.1.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Carly, would you please call the roll?
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson? Butch Pond? Bill Ussery? Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison? Sharon Lloyd? Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
This ordinance is adopted. Number 11.
Thank you,
Mr.
Judge. 11.1 is an ordinance for Cane Hill Community to anticipated revenue of $2,000. Attorney Zega, please.
An ordinance anticipating and appropriating revenue of $2,000 for the rural community grant fund for the Cane Hill community 2016. Article 1, there is hereby anticipated revenue of $2,000 in the state grant revenue line item of the rural community grant fund for 2016. Article 2, there is hereby appropriated the amount of $2,000 from the rural community grant fund to the advertising and publications line item of the Cane Hill advertising grant budget for 2016.
Thank you. I move to pass 11.1.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Carly, would you call the roll?
Sue Madison? Joe Maxwell? Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson? Butch Pond? Bill Ussery? Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison? Sharon Lloyd? Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
This ordinance is adopted. Number 12.
Thank you, Judge. 12.1 is for the Evansville community. They anticipate revenue of $9,749. Attorney Zega, please.
An ordinance anticipating and appropriating revenue of $9,749 in the Rural Community Grant Fund for the Evansville community for 2016. Article 1, there is hereby anticipated revenue of $9,740 in the state grant revenue line item of the Rural Community Grant Fund for 2016. Article 2, there is hereby appropriated the amount of $9,740 from the Rural Community Grant Fund to the following line items in the Evansville Community Grant Budget for 2016. Evansville Community Grant, materials $6,000, other professional services $3,740 for a total appropriation of $9,749. Wait, that does not add up.
I believe we have a
should be
scrivener's
$9,740.
Okay, so that would be in the title and
Yes.
in the total. Should be 49.
So which of the sub grants or sub appropriations should be have another $9 on it?
Take your pick. It doesn't matter. Appropriation.
Other services, add the 9.
Okay, so as corrected, the title will now read, an ordinance anticipating and appropriating revenue of $9,749. That's actually not corrected. But the other professional services will now be $3,749, and the total appropriation remains the same.
And Article 1 and 2 will need to be changed as well.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. I will move to pass 12.1 as corrected.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Sue Madison? Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson? Butch Pond? Bill Ussery? Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Ann Harbison? Sharon Lloyd? Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
This ordinance is adopted. Number 13.
13.1 is to anticipate anticipated revenue of $2,500 for our JDC. Attorney Zega, please.
An ordinance anticipating and appropriating revenue of $2,500 in the Juvenile Detention Center Grant for 2016, Article 1. There is hereby anticipated revenue of $2,500 in the state grant revenue line item of the Juvenile Detention Center Grant Fund for 2016, Article 2. There is hereby appropriated the amount of $2,500 from the Juvenile Detention Center Grant Fund to the following line items in the Juvenile Court Improvement Grant budget for 2016. Juvenile Court Improvement Grant, food, $1,500, clothing and uniforms, $1,000, for a total appropriation of $2,500.
Thank you. I move to pass 13.1.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment?
I promised Jeannie Mack that I would make it clear to you all that this isn't going into Juvenile Detention Center. That's just the fund, and it's actually going to Judge Zimmerman, Juvenile Court. She doesn't have a fund, and so we just put it in JDC. But Jeannie Mack wanted me to make sure that you understood she's not getting the money.
Any public comment besides Renee? With no further comment, Carly, call the roll, please.
Sue Madison? Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted. Number 14.
Yes, ma'am. Steve, number 14.
An ordinance transferring monies of $23,076 within the Drug Court Accountability Budget in the Drug Court Grant Fund for 2016. Article 1. The medical dental hospital line item of the Drug Court Accountability Budget is hereby reduced by $23,076 for 2016. Article 2. There is hereby appropriated the amount of $23,076 from the Drug Court Grant Fund to the following line items in the Drug Court Accountability Budget for 2016. Drug Court Accountability, salaries part-time, $16,872. Social Security matching, $1,291. Non-contributory retirement, $2,447. Health insurance, $2,466. Total appropriation, $23,076.
This was reviewed and approved by the JSAP committee and sent to personnel. Personnel reviewed it and voted to send it to the full quorum court, recommend pass. And so I've moved to pass 14.1.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Carly, call the roll, please.
Sue Madison? Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
The next thing was the county judge report. I went ahead and moved for Josh to be able to go ahead and give his report, so we're finished with that. The next thing we have is reports of recent meetings. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I attended the Arkansas Association of Quorum Courts meeting. The annual meeting is held in April now, and so I attended that on April 16th. I'm on the board of that organization as well, so we had a board meeting on Friday night, and then we had the full association meeting Saturday morning, and then a board meeting Saturday afternoon. So it was a lot of meetings. I just wanted to give you all a report on what we talked about at the meeting. First of all, the association introduced us to Lindsay Bailey. Lindsay is the new attorney that is working with the Quorum Courts and JPs. She's taken Jonathan Greer's place after his untimely death last year. So Lindsay had been the law clerk for the Association of Counties through law school, so she's worked quite a bit with county issues, and I've worked with her. So you should feel free to reach out to Lindsay Bailey at the Association of Counties if you need help on a JP issue. The association sells a compliance guide that is $65 that contains, it's big, all county-related laws that you could possibly need. So if you have a desire to, maybe you have insomnia, I don't know, would like to sit around at night reading all the county codes, they sell that, which is a pretty good deal, and they also have it where you can get a license and it will be available electronically. So you could put it on a laptop as well. The primary discussion topic at the meeting was the Medicaid expansion that at the time was being considered in the legislature. So whatever your personal opinions were on Obamacare, Arkansas Works, the private option, whatever we call it these days, there was great concern for the counties that it would reduce county turnback money. The association tried to be very neutral on the overall issue, but there was some concern about how it could affect county finances. So I think that the association is probably breathing a sigh of relief because of the passage of it. We are working to amend our bylaws, which is about like watching paint dry, but we're working on it. So it's they haven't been overhauled in quite some time, so that's primarily why the board has been meeting so much. So we're working on that. We heard from Mike Rainwater, who serves as the association's lawyers, and he answered questions like he always does. I know many of you have heard him speak. So we had a presentation from Randy Zook at the State Chamber of Commerce on Senate Joint Resolution 16, which came out of the legislature last time and will be one of the items on the ballot in November and relate specifically to economic development, which they felt would be of interest to counties. So I encourage you all to look into SJR 16 and what it could mean for Washington County. The State Chamber is obviously making a big push on this, but they came to us because they felt like it would be of interest to us. I know we're probably, Ms. Huffaker isn't here tonight, but I had mentioned at one point, and I know Ms. Huffaker's been working on it, the recent change that just came down this week from the U.S. Department of Labor that raised the level for exemptions for salaried exemption folks from $23,660 to close to just over $47,000, and I know that's going to have a tremendous impact on counties around the state, and so we talked about that, and I know Ms. Huffaker's been working on that, and is going to be coming to us on that. And the last thing we talked about was that the Association of Counties annual meeting is set for August 24th, 25th, and 26th in Hot Springs. So I will be attending that because the Quorum Courts Association has a meeting, and we have a board meeting in that, but I know Hot Springs is not as close as Springdale, where it was last year, but if you have any interest in going, there's obviously lots of information that is shared, and just make sure you put it on your calendar. So that's my report. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, J.P. Madison. The next thing we have is committee reports. The first one is county services, and Eva was absent, so we're going to ask J.P. Daniel Balls to do the presentation.
Thanks, Judge. Yeah, we met our new Environmental Affairs Director, Michelle Viney. She's got many years of experience, so we're looking forward to what she's going to bring. She did point out that in the first quarter of this year, they've recycled 26.4 tons of electronics, so that's good. She talked about the environmental enforcement. This year, they've already closed 52 cases, and they're currently working 24 open cases. And she reminded us that this weekend is the county spring cleanup event. It's going from today till Saturday. And that's the report. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Next report is going to be Public Works. J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. We met and had Ron Woods come and share with us about the things going on at the old courthouse. There's been some water problems down there, some flooding, and Ron went through the details there about getting that repaired, and found that the cost came in less than what he had expected, so that was good news. And then he's also dealing with some issues here at the new courthouse. Basically, water getting in here, and he's dealing with that, trying to get that all squared away. We also had a chance to talk about the possibility of using GPS devices on county vehicles. It wound up being a lengthy discussion, But anyway, what it boiled down to, I gave a report about what I had learned relative to people that are currently using these devices in city or county vehicles. We had some really positive reports in that regard. We've had an agreement from the people that we talk with that's using this system in other counties to provide, I think the last word was 9 different units to put on some of our county vehicles, to ask the road department to evaluate those and give us some feedback about what they're learning from the use of these devices. So we'll be going back and reviewing that situation as we get data from them and following up with the people there. So what's their name? Guard for Life, located out of Hot Springs, and locally owned business, and they really have cut special rates for state organizations, and so I think they're going to be a very good potential provider for that service. That's it, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Bowman. Personnel, J.P. Pond.
Yes, ma'am. Personnel met Monday, May 9th at 5:30 here at the Quorum courtroom. We had a report from the salary consultant, Blair Johansson, and Human Resources Director, Lindsay Huffaker. Mr. Johansson reported that the last time that the court adjusted the county's pay ranges was in 2008. The recommendation was for a 3% adjustment of the ranges, and the court approved a 2% adjustment. That was in 2008. Mr. Johansson recommended that the court consider adjusting the ranges by 2.75% for the 2017 budget cycle. And there is a possibility that this recommendation will be increased to 3% because it's been 4 years since the last range adjustment. This will be considered later in the budget process. And I was glad that Mr. Johansson came forward with this report because there had been several comments by members here on the court and about some of them didn't remember us ever even having these adjustments, which we did. It just been so far back in the past. Then we had a request from the county assessor, Russell Hill, to change a GPS tech position, grade 14, to deputy 2, grade 11, and I appreciate y'all passing that this evening, as we had recommended passed to the full quorum court. And then we had a request from Circuit Court Division 4 Judge Christy Beaumont for a part-time counselor in training position in the drug court accountability budget. And our committee also passed that on to the quorum court for a full, recommend pass to the full quorum court. And that was the conclusion of our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Pond. Next thing we have is jail law enforcement. Mr. Patterson was the chair of that because Mr. Lundstrom was absent.
Thank you, Judge. We met on Monday, May 9th at 5:55, and the report from the juvenile detention facility numbers had decreased, and the enforcement was about the same. In adult detention, the intakes were down, and the state was more people were being brought to the state penitentiary. There's a review of emergency ordinance on the animal shelter, the dangerous and potential dangerous and hazardous animals. Just added a couple of words. We changed that to include livestock and poultry as animals, because that's the way it comes into the sheriff's office on the 911 calls, pretty much. So that change passed right through. They put that on the and this is Sue. Eva Madison made a motion to forward this on to the quorum court, which we'll be voting on tonight, I suppose. Didn't have any other business. Sheriff Helder reported on the statute of injured officer Lieutenant Ty Augustine, who was shot earlier this year. And they're going to have a fundraiser. He's going through therapy and is home now recovering. Just remember to keep him in your prayers. He was just doing his job. And we're just proud of him, and we need to be praying for him. And there's going to be 2,100 pounds from the county prescription take-back initiative was received. That's quite a bit, seems like to me. And that included it. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Patterson. Ordinance reviews, J.P. Ossery.
The Ordinance Review Committee met on May the 16th, and we reviewed sections 2-1 through 1611, and we talked about the county seal. There's some more work to be done on that, and we're doing the due diligence on that to move forward with that project. We also made a motion and passed it to pass on to the full Quorum Court for the next meeting. Our first section, sections 2-1 through 2-22, we've made some changes and we want to get that all approved, and so we're going a section at a time, and we're going to get that moved forward. And then the last thing that we talked about is we had a healthy discussion on the county code, the ordinance code 2-31 through 2-130, and that discussion is going to continue as far as the court secretary, and that's all that we have to report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our committee reports. The next thing we have on the agenda, number 18, J.P. Harbison.
Turn on your mic.
You please read 18.1.1, please.
An ordinance authorizing the county to do business with Alan Reed and Paul Reed, whereas Arkansas Code Annotated Section 14-14-1202 requires that the Quorum Court find that it is in the best interest of the county and that unusual circumstances exist before a family member of a county employee can do business with the county, and whereas Alan Reed and Paul Reed are the father and brother, respectively, of Travis Reed, the bridge supervisor at the County Road Department, and whereas Alan Reed and Paul Reed own property in the southern part of Washington County and have agreed to supply dirt for road improvements at a cost savings to the county, and whereas unusual circumstances exist in that there are no other available sources of dirt in this part of the county other than that offered by Alan and Paul Reed, now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1. The Quorum Court hereby finds that it is in the best interest of the county and that unusual circumstances exist such that the county is authorized to do business with Alan Reed and Paul Reed.
This is on our second presentation tonight. I'm going to make a motion that we pass this. I think it's a win-win situation. It gives us the opportunity to improve roads in the southern part of the county, and if Brad and Charles would come forward and do their presentation, I'd appreciate it.
I'm going to need you to suspend the rules and send it on to your second.
Oh, okay. I need
final reading. Go ahead and make that.
Okay, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and so that it can be voted on tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Voted on tonight.
May I?
Yes, please, Steve.
It's second reading.
Advance it to second reading this time.
I think the correct, if I can suggest, Justice Harbison, the motion to get it done would be a motion to suspend the rules and place it on third reading by title only, and then you'd have to have a motion to adopt.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we put it on third reading and a motion to adopt.
One at a time. Sorry.
She's all right.
Okay, well, I have a motion.
We need to suspend the rules and vote on this by title only for the third reading.
So I'm going to go ahead and do we need to?
We need a second, I think.
Yes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I want to ask Charles and Brad to come up here in case there's questions. I'm sure there will be.
Madam Judge, may I ask for
Yes,
clarification
please.
on this? Mr. Zaga, was that correct in a roundabout way?
Yes.
Yes.
The intent of the motion was to place the ordinance on third reading by title only and to suspend the rules. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That the second's intent as well. then it's the right motion.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I'd rather get it clarified.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, now we need to take a vote on this to suspend the rules and place it on the third reading before we have debate, do we not?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Just on the motion. The motion is debatable, by the way. A motion to suspend the rules.
Okay, then, Carly, would you call the roll on that, please? Did someone have their hand up? I'm sorry, J.P. Dennis.
I did.
Please go ahead. You're recognized.
I guess I just wanted a little bit more clarification. So,
sure.
We're voting to read both times tonight, and so we'll decide tonight, or we can vote just to do it one time tonight, and no means to put it off until the next time. Is that correct?
Would you explain?
I will. What you're doing now is you're voting to suspend the rules and place it on third reading by title only. Then it would be ripe to be adopted in a separate motion. Couple things could happen from there, conceivably. One, I expect Justice Harbison to move to adopt it tonight. One of you could do something to keep that from happening tonight. There are parliamentary options for having that happen. But you could, so it won't guarantee, this vote won't guarantee it getting a vote on the merits tonight, but I anticipate the opportunity to vote it on the merits tonight if you pass this motion to suspend the rules. That makes sense. Okay.
And one other thing I would like to say, before it goes to the final reading, I will ask the audience or the public if there's any input from them. So you'll have an opportunity to hear them before it's voted on for the final time. So, okay, so we're ready for Carly to call roll to be placed on the third. Carly, does everybody understand what they're voting on?
Yes.
Yes, go right ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I'm not sure if this is appropriate right now. It's not discussion, but a comment. Okay.
I'm going to recognize it. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to vote against the motion to place it on third reading because I had requested a copy of the contract that's mentioned on page, I think it's 944 in here this morning by email to Karen, and apparently my email went to Never Never Land. And I would like to have the opportunity to see that original contract before I vote on the entire issue. So that's why I'll be voting no.
Okay,
thank you,
fine.
Judge.
Thank you, J.P. Madison. Okay, Carly, please call the roll.
Sue Madison? Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Present.
What?
President. Abstention.
He abstained.
Abstain.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Essery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
No.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
No.
Tom Lundstrom?
No.
Eva Madison?
The motion to place it on third and final reading by title only failed by a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, and 1 abstention.
So we need 10 to...
It needed 10 to be placed on third reading.
So does that kill it for tonight?
Well,
No.
no, you can still discuss it, Judge, but
Okay.
it cannot be, the merits of the motion, the merits of the ordinance cannot be passed upon tonight. In other words, you can't adopt it. But you can still
Okay.
discuss it.
Okay, J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. I have a question for our gentleman from the Road Department.
Sure.
On the page 41 in our packet, which is the financial breakdown comparison between the 16 pit and the Reed pit, and Les Rogers as well, you have oil, tire, labor, fuel, material, and fuel loader itemized between the two trips, which is good. The one element that's not in there is the wear and tear on the vehicle. Okay, would you say an approximate lifetime use of a vehicle properly maintained would be about 200,000 miles for a dump truck?
No, on these trucks, you're probably talking 500,000-600,000.
500,000 or 600,000, okay. And cost of them 135,000 ish.
Probably some of them, when we originally bought them, the prices are going up. We're
This is
probably
true.
talking more like 160, 170.
Okay, so if you had to replace one, you'd have a $170,000 replacement
Yes, sir.
cost for a 500,000 mile lifetime. So that would equate to around a $20,000 savings over 1,000 loads in a year.
Yes.
And that's not recognized in your cost analysis here. So there's actually more savings than what you're presenting here, and I just wanted to kind of point that out because that is also a cost of our hauling if we go the long way or the short way. And if we don't go the long way, we don't wear the truck out so quick. So I don't have to pay $170,000 to buy another truck so soon. So that's what I wanted to point out, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Cochran. J.P. Eva Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I have just two questions to follow up on from last time. I know we had discussed that the efforts you had undertaken to find the source of the dirt initially, and we talked about the potential for advertising. Since our last meeting, did you all undertake that?
No, we haven't. And the main reason is we didn't see a need to search for dirt when we already had a source for dirt. If we were looking to see if we could do business with Paul Reed. If we cannot do business with Paul Reed, we were going to advertise further to see if we could find another location. The main reason is because we already had a financial, we'd already built the road in there. So we already had finances built into this pit as it stands.
Well, I think to give you my take on it, it would make me feel better about doing business with a family member of the county to know that they were the only option. If suddenly we advertised in the paper and all these people in the area said, hey, we'll sell you dirt, you can have all the dirt you want, it doesn't make it look like the unusual circumstances that we're required to declare before we actually deviate from state law. So that would help me a lot. And I thought really that after the discussion that was going to be something that we
also
did.
feel like it's well known that we're after dirt in that area because we're having people from Florida calling us saying they've heard about our dirt pit and asking us questions. And
They want to sell you some sand?
Well, they're asking us how to go about things.
Yeah, not necessarily. They're maybe having the same issues.
Okay. The next question I had is I was curious it seems to me like the cost estimates that you've refined since last time are more about the cost savings, and I'm really concerned about the cost. I know J.P. Lundstrom had talked about, we focused on the, is it $350 a load? Okay. We've been focusing a lot on that as compared to what the market offers or what the current Lindsay pit pays. But when you start adding in how much it costs, like for instance, with the cost we've already spent on the road, plus the additional costs we'll have to do to reroute the road, I think that was something like 6,000 loads. So it effectively takes the 5 years that we hope to use this pit and essentially doubles the cost. So I'm trying to get to what the real dollar cost is, not what the savings are necessarily, because I feel like to compare apples to apples, I need the cost. And one of the things that I've not been able to figure out is I know that Mr. Butler has talked about that we will have to do remediation efforts anytime we do the excavation. Have we tried to put a dollar number on that? I mean, if we anticipate using the pit for 5 years, we'll have to remediate. So what's going to be the hours involved, the equipment involved, the expense involved in doing that? Have we done that?
The remediation is going to go along as we're digging. So we're just not going to dig a sheer bluff. We're
Sure.
going to put our grade to it as we go. And once we move so far, we'll spread our grass seed on it, and it'll grow as we're moving on through our other areas.
Right. I'm interested in the cost of that because based on what J.P. Lundstrom's talked about with the cost of the road, we're already at $7 a load.
No.
Because of the double, right? Am I? Yeah. And so, at some point you're going to get up there where it's not $350 a load. It's more than that because $350 is what we're actually paying out of pocket.
When you first start out, you're going to have a little higher cost, but that cost is going to go away eventually on that road because it's built. It's not going to stay in there. And then there is $14,000. It's going to cost us, or it's going to take 365 loads, not 6,000.
No, it's. He may have to explain
Okay, now,
this.
where does this? I need to know something here. Where was this conversation? When did we discuss
was here
it?
in the meeting.
Okay, it was
It was in
okay.
the
It was here. Yeah, it was
I didn't
here.
remember it, but you recognize J.P. Lundstrom.
Well, at the last meeting we talked about this, there were $7,000 some to move that road or whatever you did.
Yes, sir.
Plus the original cost of the road.
Yes, sir.
That added up to $21,000.
Yes, sir.
Well, $21,000 at $3.50 a load would pay for 6,000 loads of dirt. We were talking about using approximately 1,000 loads per annum.
And that was
so that's 6 years worth of dirt we've already, essentially paid for. I know we haven't paid for it, but I mean that's what that cost would represent, and that's what Justice Madison's talking about. Thank you.
I didn't know that.
I needed him to. I needed him to explain the math. But so that's what I was trying to get to is what before I can compare to the Lindsay pit of $4. I wanted to try to get to okay, what do we think the real cost is?
If you look on 18.2, it shows it at 14,365 loads.
Right, and I understand. I mean, you're doing the math differently, but what I'm trying to get to is the cost of the road is not the only cost that we're going to incur.
That's what I'm trying to get through here. With the savings that we're going to get out of this pit is going to make up for the 6,000 that we're going to be hauling from 16 pit all the way down to there.
But I'm worried that we haven't accounted for all the costs because the remediation costs you mentioned I don't see accounted for anywhere. Let me just sort of say it this way: if the $21,000 that J.P. Lundstrom is talking about for the cost of the road effectively doubles the cost because it's basically that you expect or hope to use the pit for 5 years, hope to pull out 1,000 loads a year. That's 6,000. That effectively doubles the cost. Let's just say that the remediation cost is, I don't know, if you decided it was $10,000 a year. I'm guessing. I have no idea. So you see how that now increases it. It's no longer $3.50. It's no longer $7. It's higher. And I'm trying to get to that number to say, gosh, maybe the Lindsay pit's not so bad.
Well,
and that's what I'm not there yet.
And also with what you're saying, I mean, we have the same remediation process in every pit that we have. So at 97 pit, once we dig so far, we have to come back and remediate that pit. Same thing at 16 pit. We have to remediate. That cost is a cost that we're always going to have of doing business when we're hauling our own dirt.
No matter what pit we're at.
I mean, no matter where we're at, we still have to remediate. We still have to put that grass seed back.
Same remediation, same cost.
Yeah. And in this particular instance, they're not asking for anything substantial. They're just asking for us to slope it back and put grass on it. And that's an ADEQ requirement.
Sure. But it takes people and equipment. So, okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
And if you guys want to have further discussion, I really, okay. J.P. Sue Madison.
Thank you, Madam Judge. Since we're talking about expenses, this tracking apron that needs to be done on page 48, it says state approval we sought to extend an existing apron. Have you estimated the cost on doing that?
There is already an existing highway. The old Highway 71 is running down through there. We're waiting on approval for you guys to see if we can do business with the Reeds, but we've already been in contact with them, and they have no problem with us using the existing old highway that's down through there and considering it part of the apron.
It says it will need to be extended.
That's only a short section between the old state highway and the new state highway.
Okay.
And that's going to be
that's
roughly 12 feet by 20 feet.
Okay. Well, it has occurred to me in listening to this discussion that you all may be spending a great deal of time analyzing the expense of this and the balance here. I wonder if it would not have simply been easier on everybody to put this out for bid and look at the various bids that come in. But that's hindsight. We've dug ourselves into this hole in a manner. But let me just point out part of what's bothering me here. The very first sentence of this ordinance, whereas Arkansas Code 1414-1202 requires that the Quorum Court find that it is in the best interest of the county and that usual circumstances exist before a family member of a county employee can do business with the county. Before. But on page 44, the headline says, contract signed before any work was done. No work began on the whole road until the contract between Paul Reed, Allen Reed, and Washington County was signed. I've not seen a copy of that contract, I don't believe. Do you have a copy with you?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that signed?
February 18th.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yes. We've been working on this for quite a while.
But we had not given any, and you commenced work based on that contract.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
But
With
we
that being
hadn't
said,
signed off on it.
Yes, with that being said, we did admit to, me and Brad at that time didn't realize that we had to come before the quorum court. After we did realize, here we are. We are trying to do right.
Who wrote the contract? Did you and Brad write the contract?
No, ma'am.
No. I think Steve
That would be
said we
me,
could answer that
Justice
better.
Madison.
Okay. Well, how did we suddenly have this revelation that we needed to come to the quorum court? Where in the process did that realization hit?
Well, once we caught the fact that that we couldn't do business with Paul without coming to y'all, we tried to rectify that by coming to you.
I'm just wondering when that realization came to you.
It was 3.5 weeks, I believe, after the contract was signed.
And you
2.5
had
weeks.
started work.
We had started the work.
Who signed the contract? Paul Reed, Alan Reed?
Paul Reed and Alan Reed, yes.
The county property records show each of them has a co-owner. Did the co-owners not sign the contract?
No.
Well, it says Paul and May and Alan and Teresa on the property. Should the contract not have had all the owners on it?
I don't know that.
Who else signed the contract?
That's it.
Nobody from the county signed the contract?
Marilyn Edwards, I'm sorry.
The judge signed the contract. Okay. Members, I'm concerned that this process has been flawed from the beginning, and I have deep concerns about the way it was handled and whether it's fixable. That's all I have. Thank you.
J.P. Pond.
Yes. Back to the reclamation issue. You're going to use the same equipment to do your grading and all that's involved in the reclamation that you're digging and loading the trucks. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So that's already basically in what you've got figured for your expense of loading the trucks, because you're going to be reclaiming as you dig.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So what kind of grass seed is it that the Reeds, what kind of grass do they want you to plant in there?
Just whatever it takes to satisfy an ADEQ, which, like a general contractor's mix, is what we would use.
So basically, the way you're going to do this, your reclamation expense is going to be whatever you pay for grass seed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And time, obviously. There is going to be a little bit of time.
A little bit of time on that. Time is something that's bothering me. I'm concerned a little bit the other way from some of these other concerns that have been brought up. What I'm concerned about is we've got real good working weather at this time. We've got a road put in there, and we've got people that need dirt on their roads.
Yes, sir.
And it's bothering me that we've got people on this court that are stopping this from happening. If you live in a rural area, you can understand some of this. We had people come in here and make public comment about realizing that it didn't have anything to do with common sense why this has been pushed back. And I'm here to tell you right now, people living out there don't need this kind of a show. We just need to be working on these roads while the weather's right for it. And I'm supposed to sit here and be quiet while somebody is admitting that they don't believe this is
J.P.
reparable.
Pond, I'm going to have to call order, and I'm terribly sorry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm terribly sorry and embarrassed at this whole show.
Thank you very much. J.P. Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I just took J.P. Cochran's numbers there and run what's missing out of your cost savings. For a $170,000 truck, 500,000 mile lifespan, that's about 34 cents a mile just for the equipment. If I'm doing that right, that's assuming no recoup of cost when you sell the used truck, but that's also assuming a pretty long lifespan with no repairs. That then brings the total cost to $99.23 for the 75-mile round trip, and then it brings it to $39 or $40 roughly for the 14-mile round trip. So when I do the math on that, it looks like we recoup our cost on the $14,000 road as is at about 237 loads, and it's about 359 loads for the 21,000 portion. So I think that helps the numbers to your point a little bit, and then I have to do the math so that I can actually see that. But it looks like about 3 months into the year, we should be breaking even on the 14,000, and around 4.5 months, we should be breaking even. Does that kind of go with what you guys are coming to?
Yes, sir. I
And then-
appreciate you helping on the clarification of that.
Well, I think I agree with J.P. Cochran. I think that's probably a very valid number to figure in here because it often misses the spreadsheet, but it's still a very real cost that every time we purchase a new one, we have to come up with that money. So, and then I just want to clarify, so do you guys anticipate any additional remediation cost above and beyond what you have at any other dirt pits?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I'll just wrap up and just say one thing. I very much appreciate that when the error was caught, that you came forward and are trying to do this appropriately. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how obviously this won't be settled tonight. But I think from what's come to light tonight, that you were handed a contract that was signed and approved and whatever, I understand why you went forward, but I very much appreciate once it was brought to your attention that you didn't try to cover it up or whatever. So I think that's a kind of transparency that however this goes that I think is very positive. So I appreciate what you're doing there.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
JPS 3.
I have a question and a statement. My question is we can still vote, or we should vote on the second reading tonight. Is that correct?
You can't vote to adopt tonight.
No, but we can vote the second time, can we not?
I'm not sure I follow you, Justice Ussery.
So it's read each time. We don't vote each time, but it's just read.
It's just
the
read.
third time.
That's right.
Okay.
In order for non-appropriation or non-emergency ordinance to pass, it must be read 3 times at distinct meetings, unless you suspend the rules and have it read, move it up, essentially.
Okay, and then it'll be voted on the third time.
That's right, and that ship has sailed tonight.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here because we are badgering people over $10,000 or $15,000, and these guys come to us. They're going to save us over $200,000, and we're going, you shouldn't be doing that. You have all these questions. I'm confused about that, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm a little embarrassed about how it goes because if you look at these numbers right here, obviously their heart's in the right place. Obviously it's in the best interest of the county, and I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, JPS 3. Okay. I'm going to have to recognize everyone before. J.P. Madison or Eki, would you? Okay, yes, ma'am. Did you have your hand up?
Yes. Am I next?
Yes,
or is
you're
there somebody
next.
in front of me?
No, you're next.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Phillips and Mr. Wards, for being here this evening. I do have a question. Dirt is our resource. How valuable is it to Washington County?
It's very valuable considering we're building roads.
And the scarcity of dirt pits or red dirt pits, how scarce are they?
They're very few and far between, especially further south you go.
Okay. So finding this dirt pit the way you did is a benefit to the county.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not?
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit more about how beneficial that's going to be to your employees waiting for this dirt to do the roads?
It's going to be extremely beneficial because instead of me having to use all the trucks to get 2 rounds, maybe 3 rounds if we're lucky, of material to him, I can use half that many trucks and still be doing a job over here and get the same amount of material to him.
So, and then that multiplied by the roads that are going to be completed in a shorter time span, who benefits from that?
Citizens of Washington County.
The taxpayers. So that's a benefit, and that is what y'all came here to prove tonight to the Quorum Court and to satisfy to this court that engaging in this contract is a benefit to all taxpayers. Let me ask you also, on knocking on doors, how receptive were other people, other landowners, when you asked if they wanted to do business with you? Although you didn't use the newspaper, not everybody reads the paper, not everybody watches the news. So how responsive were those that you did knock on their doors and you left information, county information for them to contact you?
The ones that we left information for, we never heard from. The ones that we actually contacted weren't interested in having our equipment on their property.
Okay. They were nice enough. They just...
they were nice about it. They just didn't want us disturbing their property.
Well, I'm sure because y'all are nice guys, right?
Questionable.
The other thing is there are no extra mining permits or hoops that ADQ is going to make you go through, no compaction tests required. All of that is already just not required, correct?
That's correct.
That's because
okay.
we work county.
And then in looking, I'm trying to add up the pluses to all of this. Mileage, round trip. We have a 75-mile round trip from the 16 pit compared to 14 miles. Would you say that's a benefit?
That's huge.
Labor. You have down $35 a trip, an hour?
That's per load.
Per load,
Yes,
okay.
which is 2 hours from 16.
Okay. Compared to 14?
For 1 hour.
Would you say that's a benefit?
Huge.
Okay, so we've got mileage, labor. Let's look at fuel. You have it down at $23.40 round trip from the 16 pit to $3.60 from the Reed pit.
Benefit.
Benefit. Okay. And then materials, the resource, the dirt. 50 cents difference a load, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So we get a cost savings there. If you were to put this on a balanced scale, benefits versus the cost and the reasons why we shouldn't engage in this contract with the Reeds, I think most taxpayers would say, yippee, save me money. I prefer that. And that is a perception we need to give the county. We are saving you money. And as long as we can drive that home and tell them, let me ask you this. How many more roads are going to be completed if we were to do this from the from the Reed pit compared to the 16 pit? How many miles of additional roads are we going to have so they get their roads done, correct?
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, twice as many.
Twice as many. Twice as many. Well, I do know this. In inclement weather, you have turkey drivers, you have chicken drivers, you have truck drivers coming in from county roads. And unfortunately, a few years ago, Cargill lost one of their drivers. He died. He was 52 years old, bringing in the turkeys from a county road. It was devastating to them, just devastating that they lost one of their own because of bad weather, and the road just wasn't there. So if we can do everything that we can to protect business that is coming in from the county roads, those are the arteries to the cities. This is what this is what Washington County is. We have poultry. That's a huge industry for this county, for the cities, for the people that work there. And if you don't have good county roads, you can't bring in your poultry. They're going to say, no, we can't use that. Let's go look at a plant somewhere out of Washington County. So to me, yes, there's a few things that we didn't do right at the beginning. That wasn't right. But I admire your integrity. You're new to your positions, and I applaud the effort. And if there's anything that I can do to support you at the Roads Department, the county, people, the taxpayers, we're going to do it, making things safe. The safety of the roads is going to be improved. I've gone long enough, so it seems to me the benefits versus the perception, it is a no-brainer. And I thank you for your time. Thank you, Madam Judge.
Thank you, Debbie. I've got on the list, I've got Harbison, I've got Bowman, I've got Lloyd, I've got Dennis, I've got Madison, and I've got Lundstrom. So we're going to start with that. The next one I have is J.P. Harbison.
I'll make this short. The people in South Washington County deserve...
Point of order? Can't hear.
Hang on just a moment. Have you already spoken?
No, I'm getting ready to. Why?
I can't hear if the dialogue is going on.
Oh, people are talking over there.
Talking, yes, please.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and recognize you. Go ahead.
Okay. People in South Washington County deserve good roads. And we have fairly good roads, but it takes a lot of time to carry the materials to South Washington County. This is a win-win situation. Unfortunately, this red dirt belongs to the family of an employee of the road department. And he knows how important red dirt is. And all the arguments I've heard against this, I am very, very disappointed in the reasoning that's being used. We need to use county money efficiently. We need to provide services, roads, to people in South Washington County. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
J.P. Bowman.
Thank you, Judge. You know, I think the first thing we need to recognize is that there were some basic mistakes made starting this project off. We've got to acknowledge and accept that fact that it's mistakes made. They've been admitted. Number one was the situation about the family member being kin to the people that's doing business with. You know, if this were a person in the position of a judge or a decision maker or a road superintendent, I could see where this would be a major issue. As it is, I dare say that the guy out there that's working on the road crews had anything to do at all with this decision. Second thing is that the road was started before there was a realization that it needed to come before us. That's money's been spent, and we're not going to get that money back. It's out there. It's already been spent. And there'll be a little bit of additional that'll have to be done to make this thing work. I talked to a guy that's been building roads for 45 years, and I talked to him about the pros and cons of this. His comment to me was, Harvey, it's a no-brainer. I always try to work out of a dirt pit as close to the job as I can possibly get, and it makes sense. And, you know, with a guy with 45 years of experience, I think that carries some weight. It did with me. And the family situation, guys, you know, they got a lot of employees out here, and I'd guess it might be something you ought to suspect since the last names are the same. But, you know, these guys over here didn't have that kind of exposure. You know, Steve and Marilyn probably had better exposure there to try to identify what possible conflicts there might be there. So at this point, I'm going to say that we've dragged this out for a long time. We've asked tons of questions. We've gone through number analysis and so forth. And I don't think there's any question that the mileage savings will be substantial. The long term, we may not be as good off as we expected to be, but I believe this is something that these guys need to move ahead with and get some roads built. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, J.P. Bowman. J.P. Lloyd. Did you forget?
Sorry. Thank you, Judge. Guys, thank you. And I just have two questions that I want to be answered because they've been asked of me, and I want to vote for this. So if you can answer these two questions for me, and I know they've probably already been answered several times, but someone has asked me these two questions, and I want to give them the answer. Why didn't y'all advertise? What was the reason for not advertising? Did you just not know? What was the reason?
We don't necessarily have to advertise for something like that.
So you don't have to advertise?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so, okay, that's the answer I can get. And how many doors did you knock on?
It's
10, 15?
somewhere 10, 15. I mean,
And approximately how?
exactly, but in
10 to
that
15?
range,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And approximately how many houses were out there that you could have knocked on? And I know these are basic questions, but they've been asking me, and I don't know the answers.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of potential properties. One thing we were looking at is how available or how easy it would be to retrieve the material and what kind of road we would be coming out onto. That's the reason why we picked strategic places to go and knock on doors.
Another way, are we going to have some land over here where we're going to have to travel another 5 or 10, 15 miles down the road on dirt to get to pavement, to get to another road that's another 5 or 10, 15 miles on down the road?
And I understand you were trying to be strategic, and I understand, and that's what I try to explain, but I've been asked that question. Why wasn't it just advertised in the beginning, taken care of? Because I appreciate the savings, and I do appreciate that the report that you've all have given, it's been very, very beneficial, but those were some questions that we needed to ask. Okay, thank you, Judge.
Thank you, J.P. Lloyd.
Thank you.
Next thing I have J.P. Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Judge. When constituents come to us, I think one of the things that we owe is to follow through with what they've said. And I told this gentleman I would ask this, and J.P. Lloyd has already asked it, but I'm going to ask it because I told the man I would ask it. And I like to say, hey, I did what I said I would do. And he wanted to know why we did not put out a bid, even though it was a small amount, because his thought behind the process was, since we were dealing with family members, that it would just keep us on the up and up and be clean as far as looking to the county. And, of course, I explained to him everything that's been talked about here, and he liked that, and he liked the savings, and he liked that. He just wanted it, if not this time, at least in the future, for us to advertise that or put out a bid that we are doing something like this. And I told him I would. And so that's why I put it off voted to put off for the third reading, where it didn't look like to the county that we were trying to push something through. Believe me, I was for this last time, and I haven't changed my mind. I'm still for it this time. It just makes common sense to me to do it, and it also saves money for the county. So don't think that my vote no was a vote no against you or your red dirt pit. It's not against you, it's against the dirt pit. I am for doing this, but I wanted all three readings in order for the public to say, hey, they did it properly, and, everything was on top of the table. So,
good job.
Thank you, Madam Judge.
J.P. Madison.
J.P. Maxwell said something that made me have a question. It may not have even been intentional, but he said the contract was presented to you.
I don't understand the question.
I guess it's a chicken egg question. I understood that you all found the Reeds by knocking on a door.
Yeah.
Yes.
And did you know that it was Travis Reed's family when you knocked on the door?
I did know that it was Travis Reed's brother. I did not know that there was an issue dealing with his brother. I did know that there was an issue dealing with Travis Reed.
But not an immediate family.
But not an immediate family member.
And you all did that in January?
February.
It would have been February.
February, because it was contract was signed in the 18th.
Okay, I guess I can understand that you all wouldn't know. I'm not sure I understand why the folks in the county judge's office, did they not know it was the Reed family members? Because I don't know how we got to a signed contract that went through several people before we figured out that we needed to follow state law.
I'm not sure where the mistake happened, but I know it did happen, and then it was found and tried to fix before it went too far.
But you all found the Reeds and went to the county judge's office and said, do up a contract.
Yes.
And the contract was signed, and then it was at some point late, and you all started work on the road based on the contract.
Yes.
Okay, and then somebody said, who figured out?
I'm not sure.
We're going to let the attorney, Mr. Zago, said he'll answer that.
Okay, so but to his comment then that you all were presented a contract, it wasn't like you were like, oh, the Reed's great, a contract. Okay, it didn't happen that way.
We found him.
Okay.
And then we proceeded.
Mr. Zago wants to speak on this.
The way the process happened, as best I recall it, and write all this down, is Brad called me on the phone one day and said, we have a red dirt pit in South Washington County. We need you to draw a contract. He gave me the parties' names. There were two. There was a Paul and an Alan. It didn't even occur to me to ask him the question, is this person kin to anybody who works in the county, or these people? So I drew the contract up based on parties, based on cost, based on, the things I needed to put in the contract. 3-ish weeks later, we're having a face-to-face meeting at the road department on an entirely different subject when it came up that Travis Reed is brother to Paul and son of Alan.
Okay.
And at that point I said, we can't do this without Quorum Court approval.
I want to make a comment here. People that live in Washington County, particularly the rural Washington County, knows there is probably, I can't tell you how many Reeds live here. Oh. If you remember Jerry Hunton, his wife Karen was a Reed. So if you'll get to looking for enough, the sheriff back there shaking his head, there's lots of Reeds, and he knows it.
Well, can I ask Mr. Zagat, what about J.P. Madison's comment about the spouses needing to be on the contract? I mean, I'm not going to wish a divorce on anybody, but lawyers think the worst. So, I mean, if there was, don't we want to make sure that the contract includes all the property owners?
Well, it's not conveying an interest in land like a title. Would it be 100% airtight if the spouse is signed too? Sure. I don't think it's necessary to have a valid and binding contract.
J.P. Lundstrom, I'm finally getting to you.
I'm going to try to be very brief, but I want you gentlemen and my fellow justices to understand what my position is. I've gone over it a number of times, but it seems that nobody is picking up on my meaning and my purpose. First of all, I am not questioning either one of you's honesty, integrity, or any such thing. I admire you both as young men who are trying to do a good job operating our road department. I appreciate the fact we have an opportunity to save money on dirt. I'm not that stupid yet. So I know it would be nice to have this dirt pit and so forth. My only problem with this dirt pit is the fact that it belongs to a relative of a county employee. I sat at a table at lunch with a whole big, long, 10-foot table surrounded by businessmen out of my district, and every one of them sees buying from a county relative as a conflict of interest. Every one of them was opposed to it. I haven't had a chance to speak to all 13,000 people in my district, but I do know that I've talked to a lot of them, and all of them have been opposed to it. And what I keep trying to say here is it's a matter of perception. And I just don't like to create these perceptions. I mean, we can sit here and we can understand what you're saying and the facts and so forth, but the people out there in the county are not getting all this information. They're not watching this program that intently, I don't believe. So, but they see something in the newspaper and they come to conclusions. And they look at you guys as the ones having done it, etc. And I just don't like that. I too wish that we had done some advertising and really flushed this out, because the whole concept here is it has to really be strong, extenuating circumstances that allows this. And I'm not sure, as some of the others have pointed out, that that's been done. Even some of the statements other JPs here are making are still pointing to people in their districts are having a bad perception of this based on the questions they're asking. And it all boils down to perception. I could sit here and spend 30 minutes or an hour talking about different experiences I've had selling counties and cities and so forth, and the experiences you have and the perception you come away with when it's all over with. I just like to try to avoid that personally. That's a personal thing. I think your dirt pit and everything's going to be great. You're going to get it, but you're not going to get it on my vote because I don't like the perception. It's not because I don't like you guys, because I do. and I will be supporting you in other issues, I'm sure. But if we could get that dirt from anybody besides the county employee's relative, I'd vote for you in a heartbeat. Thank you, Madam Judge.
I think this has been discussed long enough, but I think probably tonight, can we take, just a minute, can we take public comment tonight?
You'd have to suspend the rules to do that, Judge.
We've got some people that's been here all evening. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, no, they have basically one of two options. The court can vote to suspend the rule and take comment now, or they can wait till public comment at the end of the meeting.
Yes, J.P. Cochran.
I would move to suspend the rules and allow the public comments to occur at this time.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call. Carly?
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison? Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Okay, we are going to suspend the rules and we're going to allow public comment. Now, what we will need to do, we'll try to do the pros and the cons. Whoever can speak, one is for it and one's against, and the time will need to be, 3 minutes? So if anyone in the audience wants to speak, now is the time for you to come forward and identify yourself. Come right on, Mr. Ruff. Identify yourself, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for
Your
allowing
mic's
me to
on.
come again tonight. Y'all remember I was here the last time. My name's David Ruff. I'm a grader operator in southern Washington County. I'm one of the people that will benefit from this dirt. Not only me, grader number 10554. That's the grader that I operate. That is getting beat to death by beating around on bedrock that's showing up through the ground. That needs to be covered with dirt. Today I pulled up rocks. I couldn't fill the holes up. I had to get out with the shovel and dig dirt out from behind the ditch, carry it over into the road to fill the hole up that I pulled the rock up out of. I need dirt out there to fix these roads. And I've talked to some people on my route, and they have no problem with this. These are people in southern Washington County that will benefit. These are people that own property, that pay taxes, just like I do. I live in Prairie Grove on a paved street in the city. Red dirt means nothing to me over there in Prairie Grove. But these are my customers. These are customers. You may call them constituents yourself. But these are people that I deal with every day. They have no problem. Such as Mr. Bob Center, lives on County Road 126, 90-year-old man. He can't get out of his house. He's almost housebound because the road is nothing but bedrock. Or Mr. Bobby Joe Miller, that has to drive up a hill that has nothing but bedrock and a ditch that I can't contain the water into, that the road needs to be built up so I can contain the water into this ditch to where it's not running out onto the road. Or Mr. Royce Looper, who lives out on County Road 110 on the south end of 110 County Road 110. He's doing the same thing. He's driving on bedrock, and I can't cover this bedrock up with gravel. It just don't stay on top. Rocks don't stay on top of rocks. Or Mr. Dale Smith, who lives at the end of the road on County Road 274. It's out off of Bunyard Road. He has nothing to keep the water in the ditch for himself. So whenever it rains, the water comes down the ditch, washes out the road. Then, David, can you go fix County Road 274 so Mr. Smith can get his Mustang? Why he drives a nice Mustang down a dirt road is beyond me, but that's what he drives. And that's what he drives. Or Mr. James Woods, who lives on County Road 47, Bunyard Road. He drives on top of bedrock every day.
David, I'm sorry, our time has run out.
Okay, but I have others that drive on bedrock, and they want they don't care who the dirt comes from. I don't care who the dirt comes from, but I need dirt to fix my roads.
Thank you.
And I appreciate y'all letting me talk.
Hey, hang on just a minute. Do you
would it be okay if he would just mention the other
would you like
taxpayers?
would you just read off
mention
the
their
other
names.
names?
I have no
Just
problem.
mention their names.
Mr. Rob Seal, he lives on Bunyard. Mr. Robert Nichols, he lives on Wyola Road on County Road 102. My postman and post lady that runs them roads every day delivering the mail. I've talked to them, and they want something done that can be done to the roads. So,
Thank you very much.
but if
I
there's
appreciate your
anything
time.
else, I appreciate y'all letting me talk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ruff. Do I have anyone? Now, he has spoke for the dirt pit. Do I have someone that wants to speak against it? Do I have anyone else that wants to make a comment? Yes, come forward. I would ask you to identify yourself, but I think everybody knows you. You have 3 minutes, Donnie.
My name's Donnie Cohen. I am now the grader supervisor on the east side and down in the southeast part of the county where we're talking about all this dirt. I have several people call me every day complaining about we can't get down the road. I have about 3 roads down in Brentwood, County Road 156, County Road 154, County Road 158, and County Road 100. They all 3 just come together there. The mail carrier will not even go up County Road 158 because they say it's too rough. And then we have those people that want to drive down and up and down that road. You can't hardly get up it with a 4-wheeler. But we let them drive down it in the cars, trucks. We need dirt out there to make those roads capable for those people to all drive on those dirt roads, just like everybody does in town on paved roads. And with that dirt, we can make those roads look like a paved road or be comparable to a paved road for those people to get up and down. And I know that, Charles and them tried to get this dirt pit in without knowing that they had to come and talk to y'all. I was a road superintendent at one time, and we had several dirt pits going all the way back to Jerry Hutton, and I don't ever remember having to come and talk to the Quorum Court about putting in a dirt pit. So, I don't. But I do understand what some of you are talking about, the way it looks. The people in southwest or southeast county need dirt on their roads, and that's what we need to do to make those roads for those people to get into town on. That's all I have.
Thank you, Donnie. Ann? Madison, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're recognized.
Madam Judge, can we call a special meeting for next week to vote on this the 3rd time? Because, as Butch said, the weather right now is permitting us to do a lot of road work, and the majority of the people, we don't have 3/5, but the majority of the people on this court want to provide dirt for South Washington County. We know that in an employee's parents or parent and brother own the dirt pit. Everybody else in Winslow knows it. Everyone in Northwest Arkansas knows it. I think we've done our due diligence. So therefore, can I make a motion that, well, that's up to you. But I'm going to request that you call a special meeting next week so that we can move this forward. Thank you.
Okay. J.P. Pond?
Yes, ma'am. And I'll try to be a little calmer and more business-like in this. But there's some kind of difference between the way people that the rural landowners think about and do things, as opposed to what some of the suggestions y'all have, and this may seem pretty far out to you, but I've had about 3 different people approach me at different times wanting to buy material from my farm. and I didn't sell them any of my material. But the thing about it is, I wasn't looking to sell, and I wouldn't have been looking through the advertisements in the paper where you'd be asking me to make a bid for some of my materials, whether it be dirt, rocks, or whatever it is. So it wouldn't have done you any good to advertise. If I wanted to sell you some of my dirt or some rocks, I'd be the one doing the advertising. That's just how we do it. These guys, they came out there and did what people, the landowners, the farmers, expect you to do. You'd come to my house, and you'd visit with me and talk to me about what would you think about selling me some of this. That's just how it's done. You're not going to find very many people living out there in that south part of the county that are thumbing and tearing through the newspapers looking for advertisements where somebody wants to buy some of their dirt. I appreciate you letting me speak again. I'll try to behave myself the rest of the evening.
Thank you, J.P. Pond. J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. Justice Harbison speaks of my mind as well. I realize that weather is always important in road construction. We have good weather now. If we continue to delay, we have less time to rebuild these roads. I understand our next regularly scheduled committee meeting has been canceled, the one on the 31st. So I'm not sure. I guess the next one will be the 7th, 8th. I really don't want to have the extra expense to call another special meeting on a night that we don't have committees, but I'll leave that to you. But I also would request that at the earliest possible time we bring our third reading back. Thank you, Judge.
Okay. Okay, I think we have discussed this. We cannot take it to a vote. We'll be going on the third reading at the next meeting. What I'd like to do is I'd like to see a show of hands of anyone that would like to have a special meeting. Huh?
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
As someone who voted against the motion to put it on third reading, I now change my mind and move that we reconsider.
So we can do that tonight. Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got a motion to okay, I'm sorry, Steve.
No, it's okay. They're two separate motions. Justice Madison's motion to reconsider takes only a simple majority to pass, and then it would take a second motion to suspend the rules, place it on third reading by title only, which would take 10 votes to pass.
Okay, so we are going to go ahead. I think we've
the
had.
motion to reconsider is debatable. Can you give me a second?
Okay, hang tight.
I'll second it. Is it good?
And I'm going on vacation.
You going to Florida?
I don't want to have a meeting.
Not debatable.
Okay, so we're ready for we're ready for. Okay, now he made the second. Okay, so now we're ready for roll call. Does it? I'm sorry.
Just clarify yes or no vote on this.
A yes vote allows you to come back to the question of reading it for the third time tonight, and does not commit you to vote yes on that.
Okay, so Carly, call the roll, please.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Okay, so now we can have it on the third reading by ordinance only. Is this correct?
That needs.
Hang on just a moment. Go ahead.
I think-
Go ahead.
Okay, I want to make a motion to suspend the rules and read the dirt pit ordinance on the third reading and by title only.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, title only.
Sorry, Judge, I left.
You leaving, so hang tight.
An ordinance authorizing the county to do business with Alan Reed and Paul Reed.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We've had our public comment. Carly, call the roll.
Sue Madison? Yes. Joe Maxwell? Yes. Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Present.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
No.
Eva Madison?
It passed, didn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
12 in the affirmative, 1 no, 2 abstentions.
Now, we still have a while to go. So much of here on here is it's a shorter, but we can go ahead, and I think we need to take about a 5 or 10 minute break and then proceed.
Thank you.
Well, we're beginning to get stale. see. I almost forget where I am. What happens when you get old?
I'm ready to go.
Me too.
Get
Well,
over with.
I thought we needed a short break.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're going to start. $19.1, JP Ussery.
Steve, could you read 19.1, please?
An emergency ordinance amending ordinance number 2016-22 in regard to dangerous, potentially dangerous, and hazardous animals. Whereas ordinance number 2016-22 was adopted on April 21st, 2016, amending Washington County Code Chapter 2.7 in regard to dangerous, potentially dangerous, and hazardous animals. And whereas said ordinance removed the definitions covering livestock and poultry. And whereas the sheriff has asked that this be placed back into the ordinance as they respond to animal complaints weekly pertaining to livestock and poultry. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Quorum Court of the County of Washington, State of Arkansas, Article 1, definitions for potentially dangerous and dangerous animals in Washington County Ordinance number 2016-22 should be A-R-E, are hereby amended to read as follows. Section 2.7-21 definitions. Potentially dangerous animal, an animal regardless of breed that when unprovoked, A, inflicts bites on a person, added language is livestock or poultry, or domestic animal either on public or private property, or B, chases or approaches upon a person upon the streets, sidewalks, any public grounds, or otherwise off the owner's property in a menacing fashion or apparent attitude of attack, or any animal with a known propensity, tendency, or disposition to attack unprovoked, to cause injury, or otherwise threaten the safety of persons, domestic animals, livestock, or poultry. Dangerous animal, an animal regardless of breed that A, inflicts either directly or indirect or through an broken chain of causal events, serious injury on a person without provocation on public or private property. B, kills a domestic animal, added language livestock or poultry, without provocation while the animal is off the owner's property. Or C, has been previously found to be potentially dangerous because of injury inflicted upon a person, the owner having received notice of such, and the animal again aggressively bites, attacks, or endangers the safety of persons. An animal is not potentially dangerous or dangerous if the threat, injury, or damage was sustained by a person who at the time was committing willful trespass or other tort upon the premises occupied by the animal owner, or was tormenting, abusing, or assaulting the animal, or has in the past been observed or reported to have tormented, abused, or assaulted the animal, or was committing or attempted to commit a crime. Livestock is exempt from the definitions of hazardous, dangerous, or potentially dangerous. Article 2, Emergency Clause. It is hereby determined that it is in the public's best interest for this ordinance to become effective immediately, and the general health, safety, and welfare of the citizens are affected by such for the reasons as set out above. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be and is effective from the date of its passage.
Okay, thank you, Steve. And the whole reason that this is brought back before us is because the livestock or poultry was left out of the original ordinance, and it turns out that most of the calls that the Sheriff's Department gets are for the dogs that get on their neighbor's property and attack the livestock and the chickens. So we just need to add this into it so that the Sheriff's Office can do their job. Thank you very much.
You have a motion?
And I'm sorry, I moved to pass this.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell? Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted. 20.1, J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. 20.1 was something we added to the agenda because the Election Commission learned only yesterday that the Secretary of State's office is going to be funding our new voting system. So they met today very quickly to get this accomplished. And we need to pass this resolution tonight so that they can move forward with implementing the new system with the Secretary of State's office paying for it. And then I think the old equipment will revert to the Secretary of State's office. The whole commission has been here, plus the staff, the entire meeting, knows more about dirt pits and doing business with family members than they ever cared to. I'm sure they would answer questions, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. This is great news. great news. And so I would ask our county attorney to read 20.1, please.
A resolution authorizing the adoption and implementation of new voting equipment in Washington County, Arkansas. Whereas the Arkansas Secretary of State's office has solicited bids for a new voting system to support elections in Arkansas and awarded a contract to Election Systems and Software, ES&S, for a new system. And whereas the Secretary of State's office will be purchasing equipment from ES&S and allowing Washington County to implement the new equipment, and whereas the current equipment in use in Washington County will revert back to the state to be traded in towards the purchase price of the new equipment, and whereas the Washington County Election Commission voted on May 19, 2016 to adopt and implement the new voting system as provided by the Secretary of State in its entirety, and whereas the Washington County Election Commission voted on May 19, 2016 to utilize in each polling location all parts of the voting system purchased by the Secretary of State, including but not limited to one or more express poll tablets, one or more express vote 5.2 marking devices, one or more DS-200 tabulators, and one or more express pass printers. Now therefore be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, that the Quorum Court chooses to adopt and implement the new voting system in its entirety as set out above.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight through all this, and I move to pass 20.1.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Carly, would you call the roll?
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman? Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
This resolution is adopted. I just want to thank all of y'all for being so patient, for staying with us, and please be sure and tell the Secretary of State's office how much we appreciate them taking us under their wing, because I know everyone didn't get this treatment, so we appreciate it very much. Yes, would you come forward? You got to make a comment.
You know, the facts are we got the money from the state this week, but we would not have gotten the money had you folks not provided the $420,000 up front. We're one of the few counties in the state that had a quorum court who would support their commission with purchase of the new equipment. Now then, the Secretary of State will recall only funded $1.2 million, which is the same amount of money they provided 10 years ago. Well, the new equipment needs were much greater, so that was the reason for your $420,000 addition. Okay? Now, we thank you very much for doing that. It's quite an honor to be one of the leading counties in the state on this project. This is a $30 million project statewide, and I promise you it is not going to get funded this year. But when you provided the $420,000, it put us at the top of the list with the Secretary of State's office. We communicated with them heavily. They went to work to find the balance of the money. They funded 4 counties early on, arbitrarily. We weren't even in the mix, and it was an all arbitrary thing. But when you funded the money, they put us on the top of the list. Now, I'm going to say this. The Quorum Court was the lead on it. Our legislatures were the follow-up lead on it. I will tell you right up front, Senator Uvalde Lindsay was a big lead on it. Representative Robin Lundstrom was a big lead on it. They helped us tremendously down there. The governor is not going to fund it anytime soon. You all know what's going on down there in the legislature right now, funding-wise. And the Secretary of State does not have the money. It was appropriated to be spent, but the governor hasn't turned it loose. And they didn't fund it when they appropriated the bill to buy the equipment. So it's taken teamwork like this to get this done, and we really do appreciate it, because we were looking at a difficult election come November with our antiquated equipment. We have begged, borrowed, and recovered equipment from all over the state that we could get. The 4 counties that got new equipment, we appropriated that equipment into our inventory. Now we'll be able to help some other counties out there. The Secretary of State's office did not have to fund our $1.2 million. They could have probably funded 8 or 10 small counties in the state with that same money. But because of what we have going for us up here, they elected to do that, and we're very, very appreciative of that. And Kelly Boyd was one of the Secretary of State's office that found the money and got it appropriated for us. Thank y'all so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you,
You know,
Bill.
we don't mind sitting through a little time like this when we get this kind of cooperation. We appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thank you. The next thing we have is 20.2, J.P. Cochran.
Thank you, Judge. This is some additional grant money anticipating $15,769 for the Law Enforcement Grant Fund. Attorney Zega, please.
An ordinance anticipating additional revenue of $15,769 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund for 2016 and appropriating $15,769 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the 2016 JAG grant budget. Article 1, there is hereby anticipated an additional revenue of $15,769 in the other federal grants revenue line item of the Law Enforcement Grant Fund for 2016. Article 2, there is hereby appropriated the amount of $15,769 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the small equipment line item in the 2016 JAG grant budget for 2016.
Thank you. I move to pass 20.2.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comment? Carly, call the roll.
Sue Madison? Yes. Joe Maxwell? Yes. Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson? Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Eki?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
This resolution is adopted. J.P. Cochran.
Ready for 20.3 is recognizing revenue of $2,567 for the JDC grant fund. Attorney Zega, please.
An ordinance recognizing revenues of $2,567 in the JDC Grant Fund and appropriating the amount of $2,567 from the JDC Grant Fund to the JDC Hofnod budget for 2016. Article 1. There is hereby recognized revenue in the amount of $2,567 in the state grants revenue line item of the JDC Grant Fund for 2016. Article 2. There is hereby appropriated the amount of $2,567 from the JDC Grant Fund to the small equipment line item of the JDC Hofnod budget for 2016.
Thank you. I move to pass 20.3.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Public comment? Carly, call the roll.
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson? Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Eki?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. 20.04.
Thank you, Judge. This is a resolution authorizing the county judge to apply for a 50-50 match grant in the amount of $15,000. Attorney Zega, please.
A resolution authorizing the submittal of a notice of intent to the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management. Whereas it is a desire of the county judge and the Department of Emergency Management to submit a notice of intent to the Department of Emergency Management, and whereas said notice of intent will allow the county to apply eligibility to apply for an emergency storm shelter grant, and whereas the amount of grant, if awarded, is projected to total $15,000 with a 50-50 match requirement by the county. Now therefore be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Washington, State of Arkansas. Article 1, it hereby authorizes and approves the submission of a notice of intent as stated above.
I move to pass 24.4.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Yes, you're recognized.
If I'm reading this right, we've got to come up with additional $15,000 if the grant is.
That's correct. Yes, but this is a match. Renee? On some of those, you have to match them. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
As you may recall, a few months ago, we approved our hazard mitigation plan. All the cities approved their hazard mitigation plan. And what that did is make us eligible to apply for hazard mitigation grants. Those grants, some of them are 50-50 matches and some of them are full shares. This particular one, it's a notice of intent. Doesn't mean that we're applying, but if you don't approve the notice of intent, then I don't have the opportunity to apply whenever it does come out. And if we do get to apply and we're awarded, it does require a $15,000 match. Those are real rough numbers, though. I just said up to 30,000. I don't really have an idea at this moment. Just so you know, I took a storm shelter that was built in Valonia, and it was $40,000. It fit 40 people in it, and so I guesstimated that 25 to 30 people would be 30,000.
May I?
Yes, go
still
ahead.
ask her a question? Where would we put this storm shelter? I mean, do we know any details yet, or we just?
I do.
Okay.
Western Washington County has been a tornado hotspot. In recent years, we had the Cincinnati tornado, we had the Evansville tornado, and so we're looking at an area in Western Washington County to serve those citizens out there. And what we're specifically looking at is the county has the Morrow Crusher site, which is right around the corner from the Teen Challenge Ranch. And so we're looking at property that the county already owns there to put a small storm shelter.
Okay, so intent gives you the right to apply. Is that correct?
Yes. I'll come back again and ask you to apply for it, and then I'll come back again and ask you to appropriate the money if we're awarded.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
J.P. Cochran was our Bowman. Oh,
Thank you, Judge. She asked the same question I was going to ask, where they're going to put it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yes, J.P. Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Judge. I'll make two quick comments. One, you're our favorite department because you're free money. We appreciate that. Number two, I think this is the kind of stuff that I think at the core of what we do is providing this kind of service for our county. And I really appreciate the fact that we're working on these kind of things. I know we have to deal with some other stuff that gets contentious and all that kind of stuff, but I think this is something that everybody agrees on, and I think it's a great service. So thanks for finding these and bringing them to our attention.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Any public comment? Carly, would you call the roll, please?
Sue Madison?
Yes.
Joe Maxwell?
Yes.
Gary McHenry?
Yes.
Joe Patterson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Bill Ussery?
Yes.
Daniel Balls?
Yes.
Harvey Bowman?
Yes.
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Sharon Lloyd?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
This resolution is adopted. In other business, next month, Washington Regional plans to give us their annual report.
Can we just accept you in print?
Well, I don't know. We can talk about it.
Could we just excuse it? I feel bad.
We'll talk to you. Yeah, we must. And the next thing I have is, I know we've already said something about it, but I'm going to say something else again. Spring cleanup is going on right now. I mean, we advertise forever and ever and say spring cleanup's going to be here, it's going to be here. It's going on right now. Everyone be aware of it. It's a really, really good service, and I would like for everyone to take a chance, opportunity with this. And you can, if you have any questions, you can always call the Environmental Affairs Office, and they can answer any of your questions. I'm sorry.
It opens at 7, not 8.
On Saturday morning? Wow.
Did we have something that said 7?
Yes.
He's saying it said 7, but it said 8.
Oh. Well,
It said 8.
oh, thank you for your.
I know a guy that sat out there for 30 minutes eating his breakfast in his pickup truck. He came out and asked him, "Can we help you?" He said yes.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be out there for. Okay. Any citizens' comments? Do I get a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.